HammerTime.
Greetings and welcome to the BlastCast. I am Jars, and with me as always is the man who sometimes can be a little salty, Lightning Dragon.
Always salty forever. I am the saltiest dragon.
It's publicly known by now that Evocati is in full golf swing, and we are out there doing our thing. So let's get into Around the Verse news. CIG showed off their new waypoint travel system that not only lets you see your travel points, but also what fuel it's going to take to get to those locations. So you'll be able to know if you have the ability to reach it, or maybe if you need to plan your route a little bit more effectively. I really like this system. I think it's going to be something that's going to be very helpful for those of us flying ships without, 8 gigantic fuel tanks.
You know what else would be nice to go with this system?
A free ship?
No, the ability to actually travel between points, not having to refill your gas tanks every 25 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as they flesh the game out, and as they have more systems and things like that, I think you're going to see the fuel limits go up. But right now, with one, not even one system,
we're one next to a gas giant.
Yeah,
not even a system or a local cluster. Actually, not even a local cluster, because a local cluster is a solar system.
Yeah, and once they start expanding that out, they'll make adjustments, I have no doubt.
They're going to kind of have to, otherwise people are going to be very upset.
The F8 Lightning continues its work, and CIG was showing off the progress. Looks like they changed the position in the cockpit just a little bit to give the pilot more visibility, because we all know that looking directly into your MFDs and nothing else can be a burden.
I could have sworn that this ship was going to be a military ship only. No one was going to be allowed to have it. And the only way you'd fly it is if you did it incredibly well in Squadron 42.
Yeah, they made a civilian variant of it, though. Plus, also, if you're a $10,000 backer, you get one as a bonus. And I think also there's another one at $25,000. I have a few people on my Discord that will actually have both the $10,000 variant and I think the $25,000 variant. That's the one that's like the luxury variant with like gold trim and stuff. I'm hoping that they let me fly those out there so I can go ahead and show you those for footage, but I'm not going to have access to those. Though, honestly, it seems every day I might be getting closer to the first one. Planetary Racing, or as I like to put it, Planetary Death Racing, is still being refined. And from what it sounds like they said, is that the Gravlev still might actually fly the bikes normally, but they're just disabled for races. I want that flight gone completely. And this is a common thing you see in the forums. People are like, they didn't want it to fly. CIG said it wasn't going to fly, and it flies in the atmosphere. And if it's just a disabled for the race, that's a little disappointing, but hopefully the testing of that will lead them to the conclusion that it just needs to go away in general.
I'd be okay with not just pure flight, like turn on ignore gravity button, but there was I can't think of the game exactly, but if I go back to the Nintendo 64 or early Xbox, there was a game called Wipeout, I believe it was. Yeah. And in that you had hover bikes with weapons and things. And when you went off a huge jumpy ramp area, you had a little bit of glide power. So I wouldn't mind seeing them have like for lack of a better phrase, like a boost mode, which gives you like a kick upwards and allows you to kind of like semi-glide somewhere. Like if you need to jump over a mountain, right? Or like jump off a mountain and you get some extra air to get some more distance, like a glide. That's as far as I would take it as far as the levitation stuff goes.
No, I would agree. I'm perfectly fine with that. Yeah, just the absolute free flight I think is a little ridiculous. So Around the Verse and Reverse the Verse both talked a little bit about the Hammerhead, so let's just go ahead and cover the Reverse the Verse since it covered all that and more. The Hammerhead takes assets from both the Idris and the Javelin. They basically recolored and changed the textures and whatnot just a little bit to make it fit the aesthetic of the Hammerhead, but that's where it comes from.
I really like the Javelin.
I know, it's one of the ships, probably the ship that you want.
I mean, it really depends, obviously, on how well you can like modify it, because I know we did an entire episode about that where it's got these modification bays or something. So if you're allowed to do anything with them, that's going to be an amazing ship for like a CEO headquarters or something.
Oh yeah, or if you can put cargo on or something, that'd be nasty.
Oh yeah, it'd be. I have my destroyer class ship here with extra cargo bays.
Yeah, that would be one that you may want to reconsider directly attacking for cargo. They added a second deck onto the Hammerhead, a kitchen, some bathrooms, living quarters kind of things, and they were able to fit it into the existing geometry with no major change to the ship's body. They described the speed and maneuverability as slightly more than the Starfarer in both of those accounts. Now, the ship was originally described as fast and agile, but they may have been comparing it to a 90-year-old with a walker, so I'm not exactly sure. But to me, I can understand maybe not having the full agility because it is a big ship. You know, nothing should turn on a dime that big. There's nothing wrong with having good forward speed. If it's an anti-fighter ship, it needs to be able to roughly, not exactly, but at least keep pace with the fighters as far as speed goes.
The original destroyers were what was it? It was anti-torpedo boat destroyers, I believe, and they were designed to be fast and have big enough guns to take out the small ships. And later, their role kind of expanded and exploded. And in modern destroyers are like the size of World War II cruisers in some cases. Having that ship, it's kind of like that Corvette or small destroyer in World War II sense. And those ships were some of the fastest, you know, as far as of the big line ships. I mean, they're faster than most cruisers, especially if you want to go back to like World War I era when the destroyers were really first, like modern destroyers were really kind of coming out. Having that slower than any other larger ship would not follow the doctrine that Star Citizen, I think, is trying to go with. And it would be just weird that it can't catch certain ships.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's going to be something they'll revisit when they realize that everyone's just going to like walk away from it and it's not going to be able to engage in combat. CIG stated that there also may be power issues initially, and they're looking at the weapon loadouts. Now, it's possible that to be optimal with the ship, that a couple of turrets will be better advised to have physical weapons on them. I'd put it on the top and bottom turret, if anything. The ones that stick out are too efficient and they have too much coverage to waste on ammo limitations. But to me, that seems like kind of a very narrow kind of way of fixing it. Well, how about have different options like slowing the fire rate? If power's running low, basically the weapons fire slower. And if you stop firing, they charge up the weapon, start firing normal speed. There's other ways to have creative power management instead of just forcing you to throw ammo weapons on the turrets, which, if you've ever played a game that's very difficult to aim with a turret, that's like throwing away a couple turrets, because a short amount of time you're out of bullets and that's the end of it.
You could also have it where you have priority power. So, you know, level 1 priority power is these systems. So, like, life support obviously is going to be in that one. But, like, your tier 2 power, you can be like, all right, I want the front 2 turrets on the, you know, level 2 power priority. And then, you know, top and bottom, they'd be like 3. So if you start really getting low on energy, everything on that 3rd power scale basically is put on a limit. So either they don't get as much power or they just flat out don't get any power. And then if you start running out, things on 2 are going to be like intermittent, but you'll never run out of like life support or something. Even saying that, these big capital ships, unless it's like an anti-capital ship weapon, they shouldn't have limitations on their power. I mean, an Idris, right? The Idris M, was that the one with the railgun?
Yeah.
See, that makes sense to me because that's your anti-capital ship big boom gun. It's fine for that to be physical because that's your big hitter, right? You want to make sure that the big guns are a bit more limited. You can't just be like, I'm just going to fire this PPC 16 times in a row. Hey, we win. And there's not really any skill involved in that. It's just, you know, lots of, you know, firepower. But if you're on a ship where the railguns and PPCs or whatever are kind of the standard weapon, and they're more like regular size 5 turrets on like one of the larger regular ships, it would make sense that you'd have, you know, even bigger guns that are more limited ammunition or have a huge energy cost.
Yeah, I totally understand. And it's just saying that there's alternate ways to approach this that don't require you to strip out your weapons. Now, they did say that in the future it is going to be possible, or should be anyway, to automate a couple of the turrets. And the computer will never support full automation on all the turrets. So my thinking on that is if you have 2 weapons that they want you to swap out. Now, once again, I say the top and the bottom turret because of the fact that those are going to be probably the least useful. What I would do is I would swap out the weaponry on the bottom of the top turret to AMS systems and basically then automate. You could have a fully automated anti-missile system that's dealing with torpedoes or anything coming in that's going to be a real tangible threat to your ship. and turn those offensive weapons into very effective defensive weapons. Now, as soon as the NDA is passed, I will do a video showing off the ship. It is one of my ships in the fleet. Stay tuned for that, and I'll do a walkthrough.
That sounds like it'd be fun.
So let's jump into calling all devs. There's only one question this week that I felt had any real substance. Someone had asked basically, will mining on foot with tools be implemented in the game? Now, they stated they are looking into it. Salvaging, of course, is the mechanic that comes out next. Now, once they finish with that, or at least get it to a workable state, they'll look at mining mechanics once again. One of the things that we're thinking about with FPS mining mechanics is that on large asteroids, you could go out there and plant devices on an asteroid that may make it easier to mine, or certain minerals in asteroids will only be harvestable by hand, because the mineral is too fragile or whatnot, that if a large mining device or a large mining ship comes in and starts hitting the rock, it will destroy those minerals, kind of creating this interesting little dynamic where maybe you want to have the little guys going out there scouting it first for those special metals or minerals or whatever, gather them up, and then have the big one crunch it down.
You want to know the only problem with that? Most games, you have a speed versus efficiency. Either you are very fast, but you destroy a lot of materials, or you are slower, but you get more materials. And this is pretty consistent with a lot of games that have similar mechanics with gather resources. Them saying, oh, well, for example, my Orion can't harvest platinum. I say bullshit on that, because I'm sorry, I'm still going to be able to mine it. It's a mining ship. I would understand if it's like, well, let's say there's 10,000 platinum in this thing. Well, you're only going to get maybe 5 because it's not really designed for that. If you wanted to do specific harvesting, you'd either have to tweak it through some type of, I was going to say mini game, but no, not a mini game. Either like an upgrade system or like a calibration feature where you have to calibrate it towards a certain mineral so you get more of that but less of other things. I'd rather them do that than saying, oh, you can only harvest platinum by going out there with a hand tool and going tink, 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 because that's stupid, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can understand that. We'll have to see how it gets implemented, though. I'm going to hold my judgment on that until I see what actually happens. Now, as a quick comment, there's been some threads popping up related to EVE Online, and this constant argument that the PvP zones should be the ones with the best materials and the best items and whatnot. I've never liked that concept. I think frankly, it's crap. Why is this mineral only out there and not in the inner system? Now, someone could say it's been played out. My argument is that high-sec systems should have less minerals or harder to find minerals because it's been played out. And that when you trade or sell things that you've harvested, you have to pay a tax. Let's say 30%, just as a number. Now, if you go into the unpatrolled or the more wild regions of space, obviously hasn't been played out as much, so you're going to find a more vast amount of minerals or asteroid fields out there.
Or easier to scan them down.
Right, and there's no taxes because you're basically in the wildlands, so to speak. So because of that, you have a faster and higher risk turnaround where you don't have to pay taxes, because you're not also part of those taxes is going to be for paying for the UEE patrols that are out in the safer sectors of space. So once you enter into wild space, there's no need to pay those taxes. So I think if you balance it off financially, creating a risk and reward through finances and not through materials, you can come up with a very simple to implement and very viable way for everyone to make their choice. But you can still find this mineral here or here, depending. It doesn't really matter where you go.
You know, that sounds a lot like what I was saying earlier. Something that's fast, but less efficient, or well, actually, maybe it's similar.
It's similar.
It's similar because
it's safe but less efficient, or not safe and more efficient but also more risky.
It's kind of like reverse roles, but the same concept.
And later this week, in honor of the upcoming Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, I'm going to play the original Rebel Galaxy for the first time. I actually picked this game up on a Steam sale for about 75% off a while ago. Just never got around to playing it. So I plan to do a couple of initial reaction videos, and at least a follow-up summary of the game, kind of a review. Also later this week, LD and I continue our long and continual self-immolation as we march forward in Arma Apex, enjoying a steady diet of bullets and pain.
My favorite.
Delicious. Alright everyone, well, that's about it for this week's BlastCast. As always, leave your comments down below. I gotta go ahead and get some testing done.
Bye-bye, everybody. Testing.
Later.